Good morning, everybody. It's Thea and Kevin from Mindful Living Sanctuary giving you our weekly garden tour. And we're going to start at the same place and take you on the same path. First stop is the Thornless Blackberry. What's the name again?
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown Blackberries. They're coming along really nicely, but we had a little project of keeping them upright, which Kevin will explain a little more, using these dollar store little devices.
So you can use just about anything. You can use string, you can use anything, but with the two varieties that we have of the Thornless Blackberry plants, we have Chester and Triple Crown. And they are semi-erect blackberry plants, meaning that they need a support structure. Otherwise, they're going to do what these ones we're doing, is just laying right out here into the driveway. And the deer come through here every night, and we've been really fortunate. They haven't eaten these down like they have in the garden plot for the blackberry plants. But the deer will come through and chop them down, take off the tops and all. And these are, this new green growth that we see is called the primocane. These primocanes will produce some fruit this year. So this is a primocane here. This is actually a florocane here. But most of these are primocanes, and so the primocanes will overwinter, and next year they'll produce the most amount of fruit. The florocanes are the second year growth, and those are the ones that you prune off at the end of this season.
All right, now we'll come over to the gooseberries.
There's Timmy helping us out here today.
He's the man.
So the gooseberry plants, okay, so the gooseberry plants are during their harvesting season going on right now as well. So the gooseberries, we have two different cultivars that we grow here. And the deer come through, and they, with their beautiful little tongues and lack of incisors, well, they do have the lower incisors, but they can just peel these right off despite them having thorns. But these aren't real super thorny cultivars that we carry here. So you've been busy harvesting these last couple of weeks. What have you been harvesting?
Well, blueberries and honeyberries, also known as, Kevin?
Hiscaps.
Never can say that. That's a tough one for me. Honeyberries. They are very much, these honeyberries, like blueberries, but they're not quite as sweet. I'll see if I can find one here for you. But I went yesterday and got just about all of them off.
So there were some there. Yep.
Were you able to see them?
Yep. Down in there.
Oh yeah, there's one. Yep, I'll take it out. See, they're almost the color of the blueberry, but they're kind of elongated, and they taste really good.
Yeah, and they produce, over a few week period, they produce lots and lots of them. The birds get in there when the dog, and Hank comes in here, he's always eating them off the plants as well.
I have to tell you, that's how I knew they were ripe.
Yeah.
He kept on pushing the bushes and reaching under, and I go, oh. I
Yep.
looked and he was right.
Our little angel helping us here in the gardens. So one thing I want to take a quick stop here and just mention is, so this is not cattle panel, this is dog kennel fencing panels that you do for if you're having dogs in your yard. We got these used and they've worked out really great, but having places for the birds to perch really has helped us with our pest management. Certainly the beneficial insects are very, very important. The spiders are very important, so we don't destroy the spider webs when we're going through the gardens. But having plenty of perching spots, and we'll take a look in the central garden and the eastern garden plot. But here on these cattle panels, they will perch, a lot of them, like the barn swallows will be here and the kingbirds will be on a perch like this. They'll perch on the gates as well. Having plenty of places for your birds to be able to perch, and good habitats, hedgerows and farmscaping to help as well. So you've also been harvesting blueberry plants.
Yes, and they all ripen at different times. And some bushes will ripen much later than other species, but even in the one bush, it's not like you could come out and pick everybody that day. So like if Kevin zooms in, you could see there's some that are right there and some that are just starting almost white color and all. But they're doing great. So today I'm going to come and pick all the nice blue ones
that are fully ripe, because it can be a little deceptive. So they turn a little purplish, and it might be a little more purple on the bottom but blue on the tops, just because it needs a little bit more time, a little more sun. But real happy with the blueberry plants.
We have 3 rows of them here.
And the blue color really is beneficial for your health and all. It's not just an anti-inflammatory component. It's loaded with anthocyanins. The blackberry plants, the black currants, the blueberries, the honeyberries, all of these have a special phytonutrient that are absolutely fantastic and produce well. And if you're going to start growing blueberry plants, I would get a couple of different varieties and see just how well they produce, the size of the berries, how well they handle the winter. You know, and certainly pruning them is so important as well.
And these are our cuttings, hardwood cuttings. They didn't do as well this year, but some of them have survived.
The only reason that they didn't do well, so these are Hosta Berries, or Josta Berries, some people will say, or Yosta Berry, which is a cross between a black currant and a black currant and a gooseberry. And they're delicious. They produce really nice big berries, and we got lots of them for sale over there in the greenhouse. But we got these hardwood cuttings I let set for over a month before sticking them in the soil. So it's a miracle that any of these did well.
Yeah. And then over here, there's red currants.
So these are the red currants. They were a little bit hardier, even though they were harvested at the same time.
Mm-hmm. And in this row, continuing, are the curly willows. And if you saw the video last week, is to see how much greener they look. The leaves are coming out. They're really doing well. You know?
Yeah, all of the willow family, they produce lots of auxins, and I just made a video about living fences recently and talked about how the auxins, which is a growth hormone that's naturally produced in high levels in the willow family, and certainly in the curly willows, pussy willows as well. So I may harvest some pussy willows soon, even though it's July. And I don't recommend trying to propagate different plants in July unless you have misting beds, which we aren't set up for yet. But you know, the willows are a very forgiving plant. They will, and I got to say the ribes as well, like the gooseberries and the currants, they tend to do quite well as well.
And then right up against the barn wall is our lupine, which is coming back and doing really well and helping to suppress some of the weeds by shading, you know, them out. The area where Kevin is there now, pull some of the weeds and see if we can encourage the lupine to come up here. And we're still thinking of putting some more hosta plants here, right?
That's right, yep.
Okay, then at the end of this garden area, the west one, is our wonderful elderberry.
Yep.
Which is just starting to get some of the little berries on some parts of the plant. On the other side, so oh, there's flowers. Flowers are present.
Yep. So these will be producing the berries, and the birds will even eat the berries off at this stage. But this is a cultivar that we found on the property. We've grown Johns and Adams, and I think another variety as well. But you know, it's this cultivar, which is adapted to our property with mostly gravel, but it does tolerate high moisture content. It seems to be climatically adapted to this region. So I absolutely love these ones, and they grow like crazy. So here we are in the central garden now. So how's the broccoli doing?
Broccoli's doing great. I come out every 3 days or so, and we cut them off when they're small, just because they tend to bolt, you know, and make the flowers. But that's okay, because it's a nice walk in the garden.
Yeah, there are a few Japanese beetles coming in, and unfortunately I didn't. Now the Japanese beetles will go for the Bach 14 comfrey, but I try to leave some of the Pennsylvania smartweed around so that they'll preferentially go to that. And I really haven't left any around in this garden, which was my mistake. So the Japanese beetles will come around and get on some of the broccoli leaves and some of the kale leaves as well.
And you can see a little head starting here, but we'll let that get a little bigger. But someone's been munching on the leaves.
Yep.
And all.
So we aren't getting the great big beautiful crowns, the heads that most people would that you pick up in the grocery store. But we get many small heads, and and we don't have the caterpillar, the cabbage moth caterpillars on ours either.
And we have our 2 different types of kale. These are
Red Russian,
and then these are the ones that start with a P.
Premier,
yes. Yep. And a lot of times I'll try and balance out what we have in our salad, the 2 different types. But pretty soon I'm going to come along and take a big harvest, clean them all off, put them in the freezer, just fill a whole freezer with kales that we could use all.
So we have multiple freezers. So we have one 21 cubic foot freezer that'll just be dedicated to the kale, because we have it in all of our dishes, our casseroles and meals, and our salads. During the summer months we have these in our salads. During the winter months we use microgreens during those times.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'll mention in this garden plot here, we have the gates that are over there the birds perch on, but one of the things that all the birds perch on are the tomato cage support structures, and these are just concrete mesh reinforcing that are here, and the birds will all be lined up. This time of year, most of the birds have transitioned from being nestlings, being nest bound and mom and dad coming and feeding them, to being fledglings where they've left the nest and they come out with mom and dad and they perch all along the tops of the cages and all along the tops of the Premier 1 and then the T-posts. And when they're first fledglings, they like lining right up close together like this. And that really helps out a lot. So what do you think of the tomato plants so far?
They're great. The San Marzanos are doing really well. We're starting to get, maybe you can take a picture. I found, right, this one here on the bottom has just starting to get green. But they'll double in size. They're like the Roma tomatoes.
Yep.
And
so they're good for canning. We love them fresh. We have them in, well, pretty much we get a freezer full of the tomatoes too.
Yes, yeah.
And with the freezing technique and processing that Thea does, and no chemicals or anything, but they're just frozen, and we allow some of the moisture to drain out of them, and they can be in our wraps 24 hours, 365 days a year.
And one thing I should tell you is last year, because we kind of ran out of freezer space, I also dehydrated in our Excaliburs.
Yep.
And you just reconstitute them, and they're great. You can make sauce out of it,
Yep.
and less space and all.
That's right. Yep.
So that's good. These are onions are doing fantastic. They're the red onions, and they're surrounded with some purslane, which is also an edible plant. Supposedly has lots of nutrients in it, but it's kind of a low-lying weed, so we don't get as upset about that, and it suppresses some of the other, weeds.
So lots of people will go out every day and harvest the purslane. We have as well in the past, but they do pretty darn well.
Look what I just found, another one.
Yep, banana peppers.
Yep.
So these are the banana peppers we got from a friend of ours that has a nursery. It's pretty much at a low level now. The nurseries are not doing quite as well this year as they used to do, but we got these banana peppers from him, got those in the ground because our banana peppers didn't do as well. They got waterlogged. And so these are doing pretty well for a couple weeks being in the ground, maybe 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks or so. And they're really starting to get some height because they were little guys,
Yep, tiny little buggers.
And I'm pleasantly surprised that they started to make peppers, already.
And all of these garden beds had cover crops on them after harvesting last season. These were all a mixture of mustard seed that were planted in here, and they're planted the full width of the bed. And here we have our blue flesh Irish type potatoes, and these have not been hilled, but they're, you know, we'll see how well they do. You know, we still have some time. There is a little bit of flowering going on now, but we'll wait until these things start dying back.
And I just noticed that they're just starting to get a bluer tinge to the leaves. But as they get more mature, you know, the green kind of changes over to blue. And
well, they actually start off more bluish, then turn greenish with the photosynthesis and all. If they're hilled up, but you'll see at the base of the stalks, they all have a little bit of the bluish color here as well, or maroon color. But the potato skin and the flesh are both very blue.
Yep.
A lot of the flowers will have a bluish hue to them as well. And over here in this path, and we're heading back over to the eastern garden plot now, are clover seed and Roman chamomile, which are both nice low ground cover. And this is our experiment to see how well we like our paths covered with a ground cover.
Kind of like a living path.
That's right, yep, living paths. And that would be really nice. We'll see how well it works. There's a channel called No-Till Gardeners, and I've always wanted the clover and even bird's foot trefoil, but they're really expensive. And so is the Roman chamomile. We've grown both German and Roman chamomile this season. The German chamomile is taller, the Roman chamomile is a lower cover, and you get that beautiful fragrance when you walk across it. So in this garden plot over here, we have first the big hoop trellis that has all of the scarlet red runner beans. And they may need to be supported up here before too long, but some of them are started up. We need to weed along this side here where some of the quack grass has gotten up in there. But otherwise...
Some of them have already up there. You can see that all by themselves. They started climbing the trellis.
We'll see better when we get up there.
And I'm going to stay a little more towards the edge here because all planted in here is the living pathways too.
Yeah, so there's both the clover seed in here and the chamomile, the Roman chamomile seed, all along in here. And this is a sweet corn that got started a little late because we had the issue with me swelling up the corn initially. And then we have the soybean that are starting up in here as well. And I start the soybean after the corn is 3 to 4 inches tall because I don't want to shade out the corn. But the soybean hopefully will, and a lot of it's inoculated with the rhizobacterium, so they will help to fix nitrogen into the soil, so feed the soil while, and the soybean will actually start to shade the area as well somewhat to help suppress the various weeds. And again, you may be able to see, this is some of the tiny clover right down in here. I don't know if this is going to show up on the camera, but I could see some of the clover starting to show.
Yep. And then we have 2 rows of kidney beans that we put in after the corn didn't do so well, but there is a carrot few that decided to come up later. So we're just leaving them there and let them grow.
Yeah, very, very few carrot seeds germinated this year. And I did put the tripod there with the irrigation head to help water, because even when we get small amounts of rain, it doesn't water the paths in these areas here. The primary crops are irrigated by the drip tape, but that overhead irrigation we turn on for about 15 minutes, just try to give the paths a chance to get some moisture for growing the clover and the chamomile.
And look,
some of the jalapeno peppers here starting.
Yeah. We like to pick them when they're more, like on a reddish, orange-red color, but that's great. Yeah, that's great.
So these we also got from our neighboring farm nursery area. Then these potatoes here, I'm not hilling these ones either. They were just put in here. I'll probably show you how I'm going to harvest them. I'll probably use Elon to help with it. We'll see how I feel. But with my back and all, oh, here's some more of the clover seed or chamomile. I'm not certain. I'm going to try not to damage these too much by walking in here. But these were not hilled, these russet potatoes, but they're doing okay so far.
And the flowers are doing great. These are chamomile. These are the German ones. So they're kind of flopped over, but you can see they get a lot taller than the Roman ones that we're using for pathways. And these are black-eyed Susans. And we have some over there that are actually flowering around the big maple tree and all. So we've lined this area, and again where Kevin's walking is another living pathway. So hopefully that'll grow because it'll look great and be more natural.
And some of the Scarlet Red Runner beans are starting to make their way up on this side. Once these get about, up a couple more feet, then we'll see lots and lots of the hummingbirds coming around. Less of a chance of one of the cats getting them. You got more of the flowers over here.
Yeah, they're not doing quite as well, but the soil was better over on the other side and all. But our sweet potatoes, look at the leaves. It just keeps on growing and growing. They'll be all out on the side in no time.
Yeah, they do great. And you just put them right around in here. Try to keep them directed up on the bed as much as possible. This also has been seeded with the living with the chamomile and the clover seed. So this is an experiment for us. We'll see how well things work. And we'll just take it step by step. There's a Pennsylvania smartweed right there. And we'll leave that one for now. We've got a couple other weeds that are undesirable ones. We'll be pulling those out. But, goosefoot.
And the fencing is working great because the other year with the white fencing, they would just jump right over it because they love the sweet potatoes.
So our 4 and 5 foot tall fencing really did not work out at all well. But when you get something that's over 6 feet, it really does discourage the deer from jumping over. So here we have some of the extra red onions in here.
And extra tomatoes.
Yep.
So they were really tiny and runty, and we weren't sure if they were going to live, but as you can see, they are very happy with their drip tape, I think.
Yeah, they're doing quite well. And the reason that they were so runty, and these are the San Marzano tomatoes that we've been growing, same ones as over there. Mm-hmm. These ones got into the ground much later. These were root bound in small pots. Yep. But they're doing pretty darn well.
And the dill is, kind of a little
wimpy,
iffy, but I just going to put that on the salad. And we pinched off the tops of.
So each time you pinch off the top,
right there,
you can see it'll turn into more of a bush.
Mm-hmm. So then you get more basil.
That's
There's
right.
2 different types of sweet basil there.
And the spinach is just bolting here, and
we're just going to
not
collect
too worried
seed
about it.
Or just put it to make soil. And then here's some more tomatoes in our strawberry patch.
A couple of the banana peppers.
Yep.
Those were a couple of the ones that survived our trays that we grew.
This one too.
Yeah.
And once we get past the extra tomatoes, we are doing great with our parsley that our neighbor gave us.
Yeah.
And Kevin had explained in another video how you go ahead and put the runners from the strawberries over, and the ones he did on the last video, see how nice they're doing. Look how far they've come, Kevin.
Yep.
So
we want to prevent them from getting in between these blocks and the block wall, like this one is here. So want to keep moving them. I haven't really been out here to try and stay on top of it, but keeping the runners towards the center of the bed, next to the drip tape. Mm-hmm. That way next season, this one plant is going to produce, I don't know how many, probably 3 dozen new strawberry plants from this one strawberry plant. But it doesn't do any good if they're all congested in one area. You want to keep taking those runners and putting them in the most desirable areas as well.
Yeah, so they're doing great.
So pretty good. And you went ahead and watered the herb garden
Yep.
and weeded the herb garden up front too.
And because I come out here every day if it hasn't rained, it rained last night, so we didn't have to do it today, for our living paths to go ahead and help the seeds, you know, so we can grow our living paths. I come in here and I give them a little extra dose of water, as well as I started watering, seeing I have a hose in my hand, the herb garden around the eagle statue. And they're doing much better.
So that's thyme, lavender, and sage
Yes.
over there. And
Yep.
just thyme up front.
Yep. So maybe we'll get a good batch of that, you know.
Good.
Anything else you can think of, or?
No, I think we're good with our description of everything and all. You want to close this out here, hon?
Sure, I hope you guys enjoyed this morning's walkabout update. And if you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up and remember to subscribe and have a joyous week.
Thanks so much for watching, folks. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.